So welcome to June. It's June, right? The June uh, collective coven meeting. So I just want to, we were chatting just a little bit about just how the collective works in regards to, you really get to be a part of the community when you interact with it, but if you just kind of come in and try to lurk, it just doesn't work very well, kind of thing. And when you lurk, uh, lurking is best done on Facebook, not so much here. So if you want to lurk, go to our Facebook page, the Phat Life with Ashmac, and go from there. So, but anyway, want to check in with you guys, Lori and Demo. Like, how have you been? I'm sorry that last month, like, it just kind of jumped, like, I forgot all about it, and then I got sick, and it was just not so fun. So, how have you guys been? I feel like I haven't talked to you in forever.
This month has been really good for me so far. So I'm hoping to keep going the way that I'm going.
Woohoo! That's I'm
Yeah.
always love to hear that.
Okay, I'm gonna come rub up against you really, really nicely because I need my month to go better.
Right?
I just need consent before I do it. I promise it won't be sexual. It's just for spiritual energy
Right?
purposes.
Lori, can we touch you? I'm just kidding.
I'll rub it off on you next time I see you.
Yes.
I know my June hasn't been terrible, but it's also not been like it's just been kind of crazy. I've been in two different shops to read cards, and normally you guys have been with me for a long time. You know that when I read cards, I'm usually very busy and I do very well because I'm very good at what I do. And on both of these places, not a single person came in the entire time
You're
that I was
joking.
there to read cards.
Wow.
And so that's money missed, which is, it's okay,
Mhm.
but it's definitely one of those things where I'm like starting to, well, let me actually talk about that a little bit because I was starting to panic because I'm like, I got bills to pay and,
Mhm.
I ain't got any money coming in. And like I'm sure you both have been in the situation where when you need the money and that panic starts to sit in, then you start losing money even faster because it's like it's just that's how your vibe works. Is like I ain't got no money, so no money. You ain't got even more no money. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm
Yes, absolutely. It's almost like the
Mhm.
moment you see the first fissure. If you focus on it for too long, it turns into a crack and then it turns into a broken dam. It's crazy. It's completely crazy, but it's just how it works for some reason.
Yes. And that's exactly how my week, like my whole last week was that I was in that panic mode of like, oh shit, 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 oh shit. Holy fuck, what am I gonna do? Nobody showed up. Like I'm like, oh, I need to what can I do to make money fast? Like, bitch, you've been hustling all your life. This is not the first, like going through those motions kind of thing. And I shit you not, I basically went back into like an old me of just that kind of panic. And so what I decided to do, I think it was yesterday morning, or maybe it was the day, like the evening, the night before. I don't quite remember. But I was like, we've been here. We know how to like take care of this. We need to just do our thing, which me, I'm a master manifester. And so, and like I teach you guys that. So why am I not following my own my own like rules, right? So night before, or like two nights ago, or yesterday morning, or whatever, I like took a moment and did my thing where I grounded and I just took. Usually, I only need like three good deep breaths, like slow deep breaths, to kind of get me centered. So I just kind of brought that chaotic energy that had been sitting with me for a week because I've been broke, um, and was like, you know what? No, I'm not broke. This is just a character development, and we've been here before. And I started running through my affirmations, which are my main affirmations. I've said before, are every day in every way I receive an abundance of love and prosperity in my life. And money flows from to me easily from multiple sources. I know and trust that more money is on its way. And those are typically the main three. And so I just started repeating those while I was deep breathing and, just doing my thing while I'm grounding. And I shit you not, I've booked 2 readings randomly. I got 2 readings this week. So that's extra money that I wasn't expecting that I'm like, I then give my gratitude because that's how it works is like you put it out to the universe. You trust, you got to let go of expectations because my expectations were that people were going to show up to these shops and they didn't. So that's where that panic started, right? So I have to let go of the expectations of how it comes. And then I got to trust the universe that it's going to bring it to me. And that's what my breathing does. I'm grounding and I'm breathing and I'm putting it back out there and trusting that it's going to come when it's supposed to come. And then let go of the expectations. And then when it comes, I give that attitude of gratitude and I'm incredibly thankful for that. And, that sigh of relief kind of thing. And then, rinse and repeat basically. And so I'm supposed to read at another shop this Saturday. And I'm just going to continue to do my affirmations and go back to my roots because this is what I've been doing for years. But this is the first time that I haven't had my hand in so many pots that I just knew which pot it was coming from. Because right now I'm mainly focused on my readings and the Phat Life and then my day job with and being a mom. Whereas before it was like day job, mom, makeup artist, Phat Life, readings, making content, Instagram. Like I was making money on Instagram and stuff, and Instagram changed that. And so now I'm not making any money on Instagram. I'm not making any money on makeup except every now and then I might do a special project or so, somebody might request me and I'm available kind of thing. But for the most part, I've only done makeup a handful of times this year, which is unusual for me considering that I was doing it every single weekend. Sometimes making $1,000 in a weekend on makeup kind of thing. So I took a step back from that because I felt like my attention needed to be focused on the Phat Life Collective and stuff. And so this was the first time that this is the brokest I've been, even though I'm I don't want to put that in the universe. Like I'm not broke. I'm just in a divot. It's an ebbing and a flow, right? But this is the brokest I've been because I took a step back trying to trust the universe. And for the last few months, for the last year, I've been in survival mode, especially from like July to January, February. I was in straight survival mode, right? And so from February to now, I've been in that like maybe I'm not so much in survival mode, but I'm not out of survival mode, if that makes sense. And I'm still like I'm almost unmotivated. And so a lot of the things that were keeping me rolling, I'm just like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? And so I this was coming up for tonight and I was like, you know what? I want to sit down for a minute and just kind of look through like all my stuff and maybe think of something I wanted to talk about. And then I realized like, well, duh, let me just go back to my roots, which is how this all started to begin with. And now things are starting, like I can feel that just from that breathing and that reconnection and being like, okay, let me go back to what I know works energetically. It already has kicked into a new flow. So yeah. That like I wanted to share that with you guys because I get like I'm glad that for some people June is great, but for others I know that it's not. And that was having that moment where I was kind of in between. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It
Talk to
does.
me.
May was like that for me. I mean, it was just like, oh my gosh, am I gonna get a break? And I had to do a lot of grounding, a lot of like, okay, just ground yourself, go back, stop focusing, just ruminating on what was going on. Um, so all this totally, completely makes sense.
Awesome. Demo, were you going to say something?
It's the same way for me, but I'm one of those people that I tend to say it's kind of I'm like a chaos machine in that when stuff is going poorly for everybody else, it seems to be going very well for me. Yet when everything is going very well for other people, it seems to go very poorly for me. And I don't understand why that works, but it must be something regarding energy that I haven't figured out yet. But I always look at it and I kind of laugh because I'm like, okay, this must be the humbling period that I have to go through right now because I must have gotten too big in my britches for something. So the universe decided to go down a peg, little Misty, and I got to figure out what I did so that I can get back where I was. But yeah, it feels like, two steps forward, one step back sometimes. And then there are other times that it feels like I'm just gliding to the top of the mountain with no issue at all. It's never the same ride twice. It's just never the same ride twice.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm right there with you. It's so funny because me and April, she and I are so synced, but we're very much like when things are going well for her, not so much for me, and vice versa. And same with like I feel like that's the same for my entire circle, like for me and April or Mallory and anybody else that I'm like right there with. So um even you and I demo are very similar. But sometimes I feel like when it's going well for other people, it's not going well for us, vice versa. So I guess we're on that same way.
Yeah, that sounds, yeah, because I'm like, I feel like you kind of described my June there because the first part of this month was freaking rough. It was tough. It was hard. I had so much stuff go wrong at work that I was just like, I don't even know if I can keep doing this. But then again, I have bills. I still want to find a place to live. I got to keep doing this whether I want to or not. So, okay, let's keep doing this. But there were definitely some moments that I was just like, are they trying to get me to quit? Because it feels like they're trying to get me to quit. I'm just saying, there are different ways to go about this. So, but just maybe at the beginning of this week, probably did things start to kind of just chill out because I don't know. In my brain, I thought I'd finally hit that point where I was like, oh, we've gone to emotional overload and boop, disconnected. And now we're just going to do things because now we're disconnected and we're just going to do things. Or I don't know what it was, but probably around Monday afternoon, I was like, you know what? This is fine. Everything's fine. I've got it. I can handle this. I handle everything. Get out of my way. Let me handle this.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say that was Monday afternoon for me too. Like it was just one of those things where I was just like, it's fine. We've same thing. We got this. So
Exactly. Just all of a sudden, I was just like, you know what? I am so sorry. I apparently misplaced my boss bitch boots and I didn't put them on for the last few days. Let me get those out. So,
right.
so yeah, it's definitely been a sudden swap that I was like, holy crap, here we go.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. It gets kind of crazy how that energy works. And sometimes I just wonder if it's like cuz I pay attention to astrology and sometimes I'm like I know what's coming up and when it's coming up and I know all the things, right? And then sometimes especially when I'm feeling as unmotivated as I've been feeling, I'm like, I wonder what star aligned suddenly to make me go, hold on a second. You know what I mean? So it
There
gets
were a
it
lot
gets
of
kind of
like
crazy.
sextiles and conjuncts and negative something and others. And I was listening to all kinds of stuff at the beginning of the month, but I was like, okay, I can understand why feasibly I'm all screwed up, especially once they started talking about which planets like Venus and Mars and this and that. And I was like, oh, okay. So I see why this is a mess right now. Gotcha. Cool. Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. And this particular with the astrology that's coming up, like we have the new moon coming up on Sunday. And we talk about the new moon being a time to set new intentions and set new goals. And we're outside of eclipse season. So this is a perfect moon to do that. And what's funny is that this moon, um, lines up with my personal moon to the exact degree. So I'm like hoping it's extra powerful for me. We shall see. But this particular moon is really kind of asking us to step into our power and step into our power in a way that is like multi-talented, multitasking, multifaceted, just, you know, like in the trench, but like in a way that's really just almost sacred, if that makes sense. And sacred, I feel like it's a heavy word, not in a negative way, but in a deep spiritual way. And so, like, I'm not asking y'all to be all deep and spiritual, like in doing your shit. But when you are deep and spiritual and doing your shit, life kind of falls into place, at least in my experience. So I don't know about y'all, but just something to think about in this and in the coming, because with every new moon, what I've learned with astrology is like it's not like the new moon comes and then we've only got this energy for like a couple of days. It's like this new moon is setting the storyline for the next 6 months until that full moon in the same sign. So like this weekend we have a new moon in Gemini. So we will be like starting this new storyline for what we're manifesting in our life for the next 6 months, until the full moon in Gemini, which will happen sometime in December or January or whatever. Um, so, um, so yeah, definitely something to think about. This week, you know, like for the next few days of like, what are we putting out there? What are we manifesting? How are we grounding, you know, with our deep breaths and our affirmations so that we can then really let go of the expectations and allow for some amazingness to come through, you know? So what are some things that you guys might be wanting to manifest or look for on a deeper level than just like peace or money, you know? Like for me, I'm wanting to manifest a new way to bring people in. Like I feel so called lately to really advocate for mental health on a spiritual level. And I've been doing that, you know, for God, how long? But like I've been really called to work into some shadow work and help others do that in a way that is really healing, you know? So I want to hear what you guys, girls, gays, theys, things, whatever you want to call yourselves, it doesn't matter to me. I keep saying you guys, and I'm like, but none of y'all are men, so it's whatever. But you know, what are we trying to do on a deeper level, kind of thing. I'll quit rambling and let somebody talk.
So it's really interesting that you brought up the whole going in a multitasking, step into that multi-layered person that you like are trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because I'm looking at going a completely different route with performance for the next like few months, because I somehow managed to book myself to do a couple of shows, and I was like, "Oh, hey, how about you? Look at you go!" And I'm thinking about doing something that I haven't done before, but I've kind of wanted to do. So I'm curious to see how it plays out because it's like a whole new way to get my creativity out there. So I'm intrigued. I'm very intrigued by the whole thing, and I've been kind of leaning into it and asking questions of people and trying to get some guidance. So it's interesting to hear that be said because I'm like, okay, so noted, still on the right track, still moving in the right direction. Even if sometimes it feels like being dragged across glass to get there, I'm still going in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's funny is that this moon is also um like aspecting one of the asteroids. And one of the questions for that aspect is like, how can we merge like metaphysics with scientific study to master our mental and physical health? And so with the way that this particular asteroid, which is Hygeia, The very first thing for the guidance on that, because it's in Aquarius, is to test everything first to see if it's right and then adjust accordingly. So with what you just said, you're like, I'm testing a new things and I'm asking questions and I'm doing the science study to then, adjust accordingly for my own spiritual, mental well-being, which it's kind of crazy, huh? Like, can't tell me astrology ain't real and shit like that.
Well, I mean, I've been petting a lot of plants, so I'm especially attached to the earth right now or something, I guess. I don't know.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. What about you, Lori? Or hi, Christy. Welcome in. We were kind of right in the middle when you popped in, but hi.
Hey y'all.
Hey, girl,
Hey. Anybody else want to share?
hey. Before anybody else says anything, I'm just going to say, Christy, I am in love with all the new stuff that's going up in your little happy sloth shop. It is adorable. And I've got friends in love with it. They're like, where are you getting your earrings? And I'm like, I got to give them my friend. So just FYI, love
Thank
them. Love them.
you. I really appreciate you sharing my posts and spreading the love and the good work of earrings that I'm doing. I was sitting here thinking, I was like, I haven't really thought about introspectively like what kind of work I want to do, because I'm putting so much work into my earring business slash tie-dye shirt slash simmer pot business.
Yeah.
I've been so focused on that I really haven't been focused on myself. So
Well, also remember that if you don't focus on yourself, like, you got to work on yourself too while you're doing that, or you're going to end up burning out. We don't want
yes,
that.
I know. But
We don't need a burnout.
I've spent so much time doing stuff for myself and not doing the work that now I'm overcompensating, I guess, and doing all the work now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm motivated. Let me work while I'm motivated.
Yeah, I'm not going to shame you on that at
I'm
all.
about to say, some of us function by extremes. Slightly bipolar people unite. I totally feel that, because when I'm in, but when I'm out, I'm freaking out.
Yep. Mhm. This is why we're all friends.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Lori, I mean, I know that I just brought this up, so of course I wouldn't expect you guys to like study this, but any thoughts with what we're talking about that's come up for you?
So for me, I think really, and I've really been pulled to this for the last, I don't know, month and a half really, is like just really owning who I am, what I'm trying to do, and kind of debunking all of the things. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we were talking about shadow work, and she was like, oh, she grew up in a Methodist family, and she was like, that's dark stuff. And I was like, no, it's really not. It's really, really not. So I start telling her, and she's like, oh, okay, okay. So I felt really, really called, because a lot of people anymore are like, you're a witch. And I'm like, and it's still very like an awkward feeling for me to be like, yes. I'm always like, oh, do I say it out loud? Because there's always that little inner person, because of how I grew up, like, oh, you can't say it out loud. That's and you can't do that. So for me, that's where I'm feeling pulled to go. Like, just say it, own it, do it. That's where I feel led to go.
I love that so much. And I totally understand that, because my dad's side of the family is very much like old school conservative Christian Republican, like, you know what I mean when I say that.
Mm-hmm.
And so this weekend I went over to my grandfather's house. The whole family was there. There's like 20 of us or more, for his birthday, because he turned 80 this year. And he asked me, he's like, so what are you doing now? And I'm like, oh, I'm at the same place I've been. But I couldn't even bring up the fact that I have this entire community where I do psychic readings and shit like that.
Right.
Because I feel the same, like I don't want to necessarily open myself up to their scrutiny in that
Right.
aspect. But I also was outnumbered in that moment,
Yeah.
so, and that's part of the reason why I feel like I have such a hard time sharing certain things on social media. Like I share in here with you guys, or I'll share in the Phat Life, because that's my safe space, that's my community. But I know that there are people out there that need me, that I'm like, I have an ego block that I've been trying to work through, where uh I know I need to share this, but I'm so scared of the scrutiny that's gonna come my way because I know I'm still outnumbered, kind of thing, and I need to really get past that. But I understand that. And where you're feeling called to share that is very similar to me. And that's where we're at right now. Like we all feel called to share certain things. And we just need to follow that feelings, because with what's happening right now, all of us on a collective scale waking up, there's still very much a spiritual war of that control based off of organized religion and the freedom that comes with just connecting with spirit, which is what church and religion was supposed to be, minus the control. So people still want the fellowship. That's why we're meeting, is like we still want that fellowship and that community that church is supposed to bring us, but because of the control that we've been indoctrinated with. And those are harsh words, but I mean, it's true, because I grew up in church every Sunday until I was a teenager, kind of thing. When you find that freedom that spirituality can give you, you can have a better connection with whatever higher power that you want without like that little, oh, kind of thing. So,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah. Christy, were you going to share something too?
Yeah, I'm still in the broom closet with my family because my grandmother's married to a Baptist minister. Like two of my uncles are Baptist preachers, and so I have to kind of stay in the broom closet for a while. But like Brian is super supportive. He's in there burning a money candle that I gave him right now.
Oh, I love that.
So, like he's very supportive, and my friends that know are supportive. But I also have friends that I grew up with, and we've been very big part of each other's lives. But now I'm like, I don't believe in the God of the Bible at all. And they still go to church every Sunday and are posting stuff about church all the time. And I just kind of have to stay in my broom closet for the time being, because I don't want, again, we're all outnumbered. So, and there would be that kind of, I don't want to say attack, because I don't feel like they would feel like they were attacking me. They would feel like they were doing it out of love. But to me and my soul, it would feel like an attack.
Right.
So I just would rather not.
Yeah.
My peace is worth more to me at the moment. So
Yes, absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And I feel like that's for a lot of us in general, because I know April feels that way sometimes too. And I know Mallory feels that way sometimes too. And other people that I've talked to that are big and part of the Phat Life, but like when it comes to family or those that are outside of the Phat Life, there's that like, but there's no like, it's almost like scared of sin, but sin is a human construct. So like if you can let that go and just enjoy your life for what it is, and as long as you're not harming yourself or other people, like why does it really matter? Like there's not, other than to control other people, kind of thing. So I feel that, and I feel very called to try and reach other people. Because I feel like y'all, again, you guys have been with me for a long time, so you can really see, just from like when you first got into the Phat Life and when you're like, I don't know what to what this is, to like where you are now. There's something there, but I just haven't harnessed it in a way to bottle it up and just say, this is what you need. Because it's a journey.
Well, and I think because it's a journey is why you can't just bottle it up and sell it. And that's why it's so difficult to get people to commit to it. I mean, we're unfortunately stuck in a culture where you're lucky if you get 3 minutes with somebody that they pay attention to something you put online. And that's
Right.
just honestly where we are. And it's unfortunate because it means that it's so much more difficult to have conversations with people because no one knows anything beyond what you can delve into in 3 minutes.
Right.
They're jacks of all trades, at least on the surface, but they don't know anything truly deep about much of anything, and it's very frustrating, very frustrating. So so I'm kind of I understand when you guys say you know not being so out about who you are. I've been very lucky in the fact that I can just be straight up who I am. I bring it into every workplace, don't really care. I don't shove it in anybody's face or anything because I don't believe in doing that because I don't want anybody to do it to me. It's kind of funny how that works. But at the same time, that's kind of why I went into HR was to be able to kind of clear the air with people to be able to go, no, there's a ground for equality here, and you aren't getting how this is supposed to work at all. You're doing this wrong, doing this completely wrong. So I think that yeah, it's hard to talk to people who don't want to listen. So I've been following a lot more of my instinct recently and have been drawn to people who I'm discovering want to hear my advice. They want to tell me what's going on with them because they think that I'm somebody who can see something different in what they're going through and maybe help them see something different or guide them some way. And right now, I'm just kind of stepping into that because it's being presented to me in multiple ways. And I'm just kind of like, okay, if that's a new part of the journey, then away we go. So I guess while some people are being called in quieter directions, there are definitely some of us like myself that are being pulled in louder directions, actually. So it's kind of interesting because I know by virtue of knowing my community that there's a lot more people there than people realize. And there's a lot
Oh,
more
for
people
sure.
who will support. So in my brain, I'm just like, that's okay. It's just the quiet millions that you don't see. It's cool. It's completely cool. They're just over there hiding in the bushes. They're fine. Don't look over there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Um, but it takes somebody being loud and proud to allow others to be loud and proud. And so on one hand, yeah, you absolutely are loud and proud, and you are able to do when you first started, maybe not so much, but you have grown so much that you could be a leader in that now. Absolutely. And in my safe space, I can be a leader in that, being in the Phat Life or whatever. Um, but it's that piece of like, okay, let's be loud and proud outside. And you're like, don't look at the bushes. And I'm like, we ain't even walked out the door yet.
it was just completely fine. And I think that's sort of the same thing that you get into, funnily enough, being that we're discussing this during Pride Month. That that's something you get a deeper look at during this month, and that's one of the things that I really love about June is because you dig into seeing that there's so much more community and so much more support behind people who don't necessarily feel like there are people that support or care about them.
Mm-hmm.
And this community by itself speaks so loudly to that, just in our quote unquote lane, as it were, which I agree with you kind of does a combination of like metaphysical slash mental health, because a lot of things that I talk to people about, I dig into, like, I don't necessarily call it shadow work, but I let them know we're going to talk about your inner child for a minute. you
I love
know
it. This is shit that you and I have talked about to the point that now you're teaching other people. I'm like, that's what
Yep,
it's all about.
exactly. And I'm like, now hold on, I hear what you're saying, but I need to ask you a question. Bring 7-year-old you out here for a minute because we need to talk. It's very cool to have every level there, and I'm glad to be able to take advantage of my big mouth and my big proudness to just kind of stand out there and say what other people can't, because they don't feel safe to do so, they don't feel comfortable to do so. They may be in work situations even that would really put them in some sort of danger, and I totally understand that and I respect that, because I live in the same economy they do. We all got to try to survive. I'm not outing anybody.
Right, right. Because nobody's broom closet is anybody else's to out no differently than anything else that would be a part of Pride Month,
Exactly. And that's why I'm like, I'm going to just stand here and say that I know for a fact there are tons of people. I do not have to name all of them for you. If they want to be known, they will come forward.
Right, absolutely. And it's weird because, like, Christy, you're like, I'm not even out of the broom closet with my friends, but maybe with some. Whereas I'm out of the broom closet if you pay attention. Like, you see my Facebook, I talk about I'm doing psychic readings or I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and here's my new moon, kind of stuff outside of the Facebook. Like, I'm doing that publicly, but not to an extent that I feel called to do. So that's kind of where the difference is in that aspect. But it also is one of those, I'm not so loud. I'm just like, here's a little thing. Here's a little thing. You want to ask me about it? Ask me about it. So
For just a hot second in my brain, did I see you as that little pusher on the corner with the little desk, open it up, going, "You want a little bit of the astrology? No, no, no. How about a little bit of the readings? You want some of that over here? I got the goods."
I got some cards. Want some cards? Oh no, you
yeah.
like crystals?
You don't like cards? I got some dice.
Yes, yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. But then, like it kind of feels a little like, especially if you're not sure, like Lori, like what you're talking about with your friend, where it's like, oh, then when you like follow me into the back alley, I really lay down some fucking wisdom, and you're like, oh, my life has changed.
Exactly.
I did that so on Tuesday nights, me and a couple of coworkers go do trivia at a small, like, hole in the wall bar called Marble City over by Sticky Rice. And it's Leslie, who is a part of the collective, and then Nicole, who I work with, who I'm trying to get into the collective because, man, she would love this shit, but she's just like, she's a broke college kid. And then Eli is ex-Marine. He's still young. He's still like 26 or 27, but he's an ex-Marine, cancer baby, like, a crybaby cancer. And I joke with him all the time because I'm like, God, you're such a fucking cancer. And I have read his cards because he's open, but he's like still kind of leery. And at first he was like, "I'm accurate," and then finally I found out that I read him through filth. He just didn't want to admit it. And last night we were at trivia and he had said something, and I went into Ashmack mode and was like, "Why do you feel that way? Let's talk about that." And then started laying down the wisdom, and then I had to go, and I was just like, "You okay?" Let me make sure you're okay before I walk away. Because you
You
could just
let
see
him
him
into
like,
the thicket and then walked away like, "You can get back to those brambles on your own, right? Right. Bye."
yeah, because at that point he had a couple beers. So, like, he wasn't drunk, but you could just see him like almost disassociating in a ponderous way, like pondering about what I'm saying, or maybe even like flashbacks for him. I don't know. But I was just like, "Are you okay before I leave you?" Like, but these little nuggets, I like, they're planting seeds, because that's how I work, is like, here's a nugget here, here's a nugget there, plant a little seed, water it a little bit, and the next thing you know, you're a beautiful garden, and you're like, my life is so much better. So
True story. True story.
Yeah, but he's still new with me as far as like knowing me. We've only known each other like maybe 3 or 4 months. So he hasn't seen the full or been around anybody that's been in that full journey with me like you guys have. So I'm interested to see if he does, because one of two things will happen. Either he'll lean into it, because that's my motto, lean into the cringe, and then can really grow, or it eventually it gets so like almost off-putting and he doesn't want to hang out with me anymore. And at that point, that's his own decision. It is what it is. But I'm like, man, I can teach you so much. Would you like a little bit or a little bit of that? Kind of thing.
But he's also a baby. And in my brain, that's all I keep hearing is he is a baby.
He
So
is a
so I
baby.
appreciate that he is open. And I say, as long as he's open, feel free to. I would give all the information he wanted as long as he was open. But the moment I saw anything that looked like a red flag, I'd be like, cool, you can find your information elsewhere.
Yeah, and we haven't hit that yet, but it's definitely been like I have noticed where when I've said a little too much, where I'm like, okay, let me reel it back in. Not that I want you to go find information elsewhere, but I like almost like I don't want to overwater you, kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at. He's cool. I love all of my coworkers that I see, like that we hang out on Tuesdays and stuff. And so it's always a good time. So yeah. But there was a whole point to that, and now I feel like my train is dear. But yeah, so right now, I know that I feel called to lead in ways to kind of break away from the norm, in the sense of like the Matrix or whatever, which I don't even like calling it the Matrix, but like get up, go to work, come home, go to bed kind of thing. Like, let's step outside of that and really reconnect. And I want to do it in a way where we're healing our inner children and our trauma, like allowing trauma to not trigger us so much. Because that's what I've been working on, and I've done it in a way where I've been like, even my therapist is like, I'm really proud of you, which should say a lot from a therapist, kind of thing. But the big thing is like, how do I do this in a way that is more than just a one-on-one thing, and it's more on a like, how do I teach you to be able to then go out and do that for yourselves, so that other people can go out and do that for themselves, so it's like some kind of global movement of living a fat life, kind of thing. So that's where I'm at. Fun times. Anyone want to share on that or have any ideas, or I don't know, I'll just add into the conversation. You guys have been so great with interacting tonight that I'm like, yes, I'm loving this. Talk away.
So coincidentally, today I found one of my money jars that I thought I had quote unquote lost. So I was looking the night before to see when the new moon was. So I found it very intriguing that I looked to see when the new moon was like, I need to go ahead and work on that and get things out and be ready for it. And then I found one of my little missing money jars today, and I was like, look at that. So now I've got all of them to sit and shake while I do my stuff.
Awesome. I love that. I need to do that for this weekend myself. Lori or Christy have anything to input? They both fell asleep on me. Let's see how it is. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I just don't have anything to say or add to that.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, what I'll do, it's almost time for us to end anyway. And since we have been talking about shadow work and stuff, I have a particular set of cards that, from my understanding, I'm only one of a few hundred people that have this deck. It's called Color Your Shadow. It is specific to shadow, like it's a shadow deck. And what I love about it is that it's going to give you the particular like shadow you might want to look at, and there are things in here that you might not even realize are technically shadow work. It's going to kind of tell you what you might be doing, and then it'll give you an affirmation to work on. So I really want us, I want to draw one card for us to think about for this next month. And then I think I might want to do this like maybe a weekly, bi-weekly, maybe every meeting or something. I just want to start doing a little bit more and getting you thinking on the side of shadow work, because like Lori had mentioned, shadow work is not something to be scared of. It actually is, when you can do it, you can really heal and integrate in a way to make life better. So yeah, so you might be seeing more of these. But
I have seen these in action already, and they're amazing.
they are amazing. Have I ever told you guys the story of how I even found these?
You have not.
No.
Oh, okay. Let me tell you that story before I pull a card. So I was at one of the like psychic fairs, where they get a bunch of readers to either read cards or basically set up a booth. It's like a psychic energy crystal fair type, like convention kind of thing. And I was there as a guest. I was just checking it out. And this was I guess it was probably 2021, maybe maybe even 2020, before everything went kind of crazy. And I happened to meet this lady. Her name is Maura Bush. She's the creator behind the cards, but she was there with a booth for oh gosh, colored oils, which it's a whole system. I don't even remember what the system is called. But she works specifically with color and what color means, and like spiritual meaning, all of that stuff. And I was talking to her about the oils, and she goes, I feel very called to show you this. I've only shown this to a handful of people. And she like bends down and pulls these literal laminated pieces of paper that have been like taped together and then laminated, because they were the cards before they were even made. They were like the test dummies that as she was working on them, kind of thing. And she was like, this is a project that I'm working on. I'm still trying to get it published. But I want you to look at it and see what you think. So she like takes the deck and she puts it, like in my hand like this. And in that moment, it literally, before I even touched the cards outside of them sitting in my hand, it literally felt like an energetic, like in the movies where it's just a 360, like subsonic or like aftershock kind of energy wave thing. And I like looked at them, and then I looked up at my friend my best friend who was with me. Her name is Sarah Rudisil, and she lives in North Carolina, so that's where I was visiting. And she looked at me, and I just looked at her, and she went, "Whoa," because she felt it too. And I immediately was like, "I need these cards in my life." And so I started looking through them, and she was like, yeah, I'm still working on them. You should follow me, and then when they get out, you can then get them or whatever. And so I followed her for like 2 more years, before they finally got to where I could have them in hand. Like that's how long it took for me to actually get them from when they sat in my hand to actually like just the prototype to actually being in my hand. And she was from Canada. So of all places, she lived in Canada. I'm pretty sure she's from the UK, but lived in Canada and happened to be visiting a friend in North Carolina to do the show at the same time that I'm visiting a friend in North Carolina to visit the show. So very serendipitous, I feel like. So finally, after 2 years, I get them in hand and I like really look through them. And at first they didn't really they didn't click for me the way that in that moment that they did. And so I've kind of set them on my shelf for a while, and only pulled them out here and there, because I hadn't really figured out how to read them in a way that was sufficient, I guess, or like resonated. And then more recently, like I said, I feel called to do shadow work and to help, like reconnect through shadow work, manifestation, spiritual healing, connecting with nature, that kind of stuff. So I pulled them out and I started doing just 1 card pulls with them. And those are like, if I think that's just ends up being perfect, because any more than that and you're like, oh no, I'm a shitty person, when really that's not the case at all. And then not using them at all defeats the purpose of having them. So yeah, so that's the story. I'm sticking to it.
So I'm just going to say straight out, I watch these cards in action at the dark market, and they will straight up read the house down boots. Done. Just straight up. Because I've seen people literally, the eyes go wide as she was talking about it. And I was just like, that one hit.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I don't like, because shadow work is scary, and it is scary because it's parts of ourselves that we don't like, but it's parts of ourselves that need love the most. That's where the uncomfortable ability comes through, and that's where growth really happens. And I said that just now, and it made me think of something I said in a reading to someone else earlier this week, or last week or whatever, where the deeper you go, the more you grow, and the more you grow, the better you flow. So when you think about like doing shadow work, or think about diving deeper into the person that you are and really sitting with those things that may not be so fun, the deeper you go, the more that you'll grow, and the more that you grow, the better things will, like, the better you'll flow. So just kind of keep that in mind, that little Dr. Seuss that randomly came to my last week. I'm going to start saying it all the time because I'm like, I love that. So yeah. But anyway, I'm going to pull a card and I'm going to leave you guys with that, or we can discuss it a little bit if you like. But this is like the shadow that we need to work on for this month here in the collective. And they shuffle so nicely too. Resistance. Resistance is the shadow that we need to work on this month. And this resistance says your default response is no. You have brilliant excuses to not turn up. And so that's right on par for what we've been talking about, where we're kind of still like not turning up and showing up in the way to be able to say yes. So so the affirmation for this card is that I explore, research, and study every day, and I am the yes. And then if we want to go even further, in the book, it says resistance shows up when your soul is trying to get your attention. Resistance makes you settle for the mundane routine, boring, same old stories fabricated by your shadow instead of embracing new ideas, concepts, and teachers sent by your soul. You cannot stop resistance. You cannot transform it, and you cannot give it up. Instead, use resistance as the signpost that you are about to experience a major breakthrough moment. The time is now, not tomorrow, not next year. Your perfect moment is in the moment you feel the resistance. If you choose to fight the changes on offer using resistance, know that you will have only yourself to blame for what feels like a stream of bad luck. Soul will keep knocking, even if it has to knock you on the head to get you to say yes and step up a level that has been ordained by your soul to achieve in this life. Say yes and turn up no matter what presents. The details, including the resources you need, will arrive, and everything is already in place and exists on your future timeline. And your yes means they can move from the dream ethers into your reality. Ooh, that's a big one. That basically just full circle for what we've been talking about this entire evening in regards to like we're doing the thing, but we kind of feel a little, I don't know, like maybe that broom closet, that's the resistance. And I'm about to go through an ego block. Oh my God. I just feel it coming. A breakthrough because like we keep saying no because we're scared that being outnumbered. We're scared of like what other people will think, or we're scared of, we make those excuses why we're not turning up or showing up. And so it's time to explore, research, and study every day so that you can be the yes, so that things can flow better for you. So anybody want to add anything to that before we hop off here? Like that was like chef's kiss for this conversation, but I want to hear what you guys have to say or think on that.
Well, when you turned it over and started explaining, I was like, well, damn.
Right. I felt
I
called
don't want
out deep in my feels. I was like, wow, cool. Okay, noted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that shadow. That is that shadow because we go, damn man, I feel called out, and that called out doesn't feel so good, and that not feeling good, that uncomfortableness is where we need to grow, and where we need to grow, that's that shadow work. And that's why I get so excited and pumped for it because I know that people need this, but that the resistance is what's preventing me from really doing it on the level I need to do it. So God, I feel called out so hard. Oh my goodness. Anything else that you guys want to add to that before we go? Because that was just so work on that for this next month. Lean into that cringe and don't let the resistance like prevent your growth kind of thing. No? Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me this week. I appreciate you all. Let me go ahead and end the recording.